hour will be devoted to panel discussion. And for a panel discussion, I would like to invite 4 experts. Our question is, why successful TRIZ solutions fail implementation? So we are not going to talk about TRIZ, but about something outside of TRIZ. When you found a solution, what is the difficulty to implement it? But it has to do with TRIZ. Yes. Okay, so I invite experts. First, it is Simon Litvin. I will introduce them later. Simon has been working, has started his career at a large enterprise in the former Soviet Union, Electrosila. He was the head of value analysis department, and he was a main author of functional analysis in TRIZ, as you know. Second, I would like to invite Oleg Feygenson, who has been working for 10 years. He is a principal engineer at Samsung Electronics, and before he was working with TRIZ. Next, I would like to invite Robert Adunka. But oh yeah, he is here. Robert has started his career at Siemens in Germany and spent a lot of times at Siemens Automotive, if I'm not mistaken, before he started his own business. And as third expert, I would like to invite Jerzy Oboiski. For a long time of starting, training, and teaching and implementing TRIZ at a Swedish company, ABB. So the session will last 50 minutes before the lunch. It was originally counted for 1 hour, but we have a little bit delay. Okay, first question. So the format of the session will be, you ask the questions. You, audience, ask the questions. But the first question will be asked by mine. I would like to ask every TRIZ expert to express his opinion, what is a major difficulty on implementation of successful implementations of solutions found with TRIZ. Please focus on the most critical points. Simon, please, with you.
Thank you for the question, Valeri. Actually, the most critical is that what the outcomes of implementation of TRIZ, not TRIZ solutions, application of TRIZ, the outcome are ideas. And in modern world, especially in business of innovation, nobody is looking for ideas. Everybody looks for products, technologies, new business models, services, and that's a problem because TRIZ, at least classical TRIZ developed by Altshuler, never focused on implementation. Moreover, from my personal experience, when I asked Altshuler, what about, you develop some idea of using magnetic field and magnetic particles in some applications. And he said, it's not my problem. I develop an idea and then people will implement it. That's still a problem, and we in our company, we are trying to develop special tools that first substantiate the developed idea. From idea to solution, we differentiate idea and solution. Solution, it's feasible idea, and you need to prove feasibility of the idea. And then there are 2 next stages. Verification before implementation. It should be proof of principle prototype, working prototype, pre-production prototype, and only after that you can talk about implementation. That's steps that are barely covered by TRIZ methodology. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Simon. Robert, please, the question is, what do you think the major obstacle on implementation of successful TRIZ solutions?
Okay, my ideas were implemented because I did it. So I think this is personal involvement always. Are you involved in implementing the solution or not? So if somebody has to do it for you, then he has no interest in doing it because it's not his baby. So I think that is one of the most problematic stages. So if I am the engineer that is using TRIZ and it's then implementing the idea, it's not a problem because I will do it because it's my idea. But if I'm the TRIZ expert that recommends this idea to some engineer, he will not implement it because it's not his baby.
Okay, thank you very much. Jerzy?
Yeah. So I will agree with Robert because we have similar business and similar experience, but I told you the experiment what is provided in China in 2015. So it is a group of the engineers that they complain that they don't have enough ideas. So they hiring me to stimulate the work by TRIZ. And what I promise, I deliver. I came, I'm going to show 200 ideas, and it was like 2 weeks somehow interactive the discussion, what is implementation. And after half year, it was implementation 0. Yeah? So many ideas, they don't have time to analyze them deeply and so on. And I switch my approach, and I create the environment that they, by using TRIZ tools, invent itself the ideas. And as Robert mentioned, it was completely switch of the mind. It was his baby. And after half year, they implement 5 ideas. So I can somehow say that this is problem somehow outside because methodology works, but perception of people and some barriers somehow related to the successful implementation.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so my colleagues have said everything. I will just repeat maybe in simple words. I think the main obstacle is the level of development. Even if you are inside the company, that's my situation now. So I work for Samsung Electronics in Value Innovation Program Center. So we are internal consultant for different business units of Samsung Electronics. And every time we have a TRIZ project, we communicate with engineers. And what we think is sufficient as substantiation, we think that level of development is good enough. But engineers often do not agree with us. They said, no, what you have said makes sense, but we cannot do that. Give us more details. And I have experience like positive and negative. Positive when we have a good team of engineers and we work together, we have chemistry. Then our ideas are implemented. Sometimes engineers are too busy. They said, okay, your idea is brilliant, but we do not understand how to implement that. It is too abstract. We need more details.
Okay, thank you very much, Oleg. Simon, please.
Just a couple of additional words. You know the term secondary problem? When you develop some idea, solution, but when you are starting to implement this solution, you face some unpredictable problems. Some problems are predictable, and we have some tools to predict some problems, but some of them are unpredictable. In many cases, we are facing dozens of these secondary problems, and it's a killer of implementation.
Thank you very much. Well, I just commented. Probably you agree with me that the highest skill of a TRIZ master, I mean TRIZ master, not formal in a formal way, but an experienced TRIZ practitioner, is to find what we call not a good solution, but an ideal solution, which means which is easy to implement because it has no secondary problems and it has no costs, which means it requires minimum of resources. Do you agree with me or not? Please, anyone who would like to express your...
Yeah, like any ideal system, this system doesn't exist. Ideal solution doesn't exist. but I understand what you mean. Theoretically, I agree with you.
Valeri, I told you that it was my thinking that it should be, but I had one situation that I failed. I spent a lot of time to simplify, to make something simple as possible, and I presented as a proud engineer. But the result was, oh, it's so simple, so obvious. Why are you showing it so obvious? I said, yes, for 30 years it was complicated and simplified, and I spent a lot of effort. So even the way how to present the result, it's art. Yeah?
Yes.
Because if I asking before people, can we remove something? They said, no, it's so sophisticated. But after then, when I presented that, okay, I perform all function and it's cheaper, better. That's the way to present, how to sell it, the ideas. Also some smart of art for making this presentation.
Okay, thank you very much. Robert, do you have any idea?
Well, I had the same problem, actually. After half a year of development of a not a switching device, but a mounting device for a switching device, which was very complicated in the beginning when I started as an engineer at Siemens. They showed me the version number 0, and after half a year we had generation number 6, and it looked so simple. It looked so neat, and customer focus groups, they were loving this system. And after that I came up to my boss and said, now see what happened after half a year of work with methods, doesn't it look good? And he said to me, I don't know what you're talking about. It's such a simple system, I would have done it the same way. So I think this is a major problem of if we do a really, really good job, the system looks so simple that everybody would say, I would have done it the same way. But then the question is, why didn't they come up half a year earlier with this solution, and I have to start with generation 0?
Thank you very much. Simon, I'm very eager to hear your answer because your team comprises of the top TRIZ experts in the world. Where are your ideal solutions?
Actually, let me repeat what I already said. The companies and business, they're not looking for solutions. They're looking for products, technologies, and services. And we should talk about ideal products, ideal technology, ideal services. That's why, addressing your question, I don't believe that there is a term ideal solution. We should remember Altshuler developed the idea of mini problem. Yeah. And the idea of mini problem was it's a kind of solution that requires minimal changes in the initial system and address the problem. I would say that that's still relevant.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, ladies and gentlemen, please, your questions. Okay, Alex. Please. Oh, yeah. Oops.
Well, I have no questions, I have complaints. And my thoughts about why we cannot provide like a good level of implementation of our solutions. Yeah. Well, first of all, I personally, underestimated one of so-called innovation killer. You know, there are innovation killers, right? One of them, the syndrome, it was not invented here. It is not my idea, that is why I'm not going to implement it.
That's what Robert was talking about.
For example, I spent about 1 month within our own company, inside our own company, trying to convince our engineer that if you reduce cross-section of a pipe in certain place, the speed of air in this pipe will be increased. According to Bernoulli law, right? He told me, no, it's a bottleneck. Here it will be slowed down. I spent months convincing him. Okay, it's within our company. Plus, I remember when Simon, together with Vladimir Gerasimov, developed like a theory of self-implementing solution. And idea was simple, that your solution should satisfy requirements of all shareholders, stakeholders, or at least it should not deteriorate any of their interests. But the problem is, but we don't know all stakeholders, because some of them are within our client company, and it is non-transparent. We have no idea, and they have their own agenda, and they have all resources to kill our solutions, because we are outside, and they are inside. These problems I see, and I don't know how to address them.
May I comment, Valeri?
Yes, please.
Actually, to elaborate to what Alex is saying and address his question, what we try to develop in our company, it's not TRIZ, it's just project management. Instead of presenting to the client the final results of our project, we set up multiple presentations. For each stakeholder, we organized a separate presentation.
But we need to identify them first.
In majority of cases, you know, chief technologists, chief financial officers, because we know typical stakeholders. And if you manage to convince each major stakeholder, the probability that your solution will be implemented, it's not 100%, but it will increase dramatically.
And I remember a situation when we identified two stakeholders. One is a top manager, and second, just intermediate manager who supposedly had to implement. And top manager said, I need something completely new generation of products. And this guy said, I need the most conservative solution, very practical, that I could implement tomorrow morning. And we were between, you know, two hammers, right? It was necessary to satisfy both of them, but it was a contradiction. How to satisfy both your bosses.
Keep it. Okay, thank you very much, Alex. Next question, I also address our online audience. Please, we see you, we see your questions. Please ask questions too. Okay, audience. Okay. Peter?
My question is, where do you see TRIZ in 10 years concerning software, AI, and how will the methodology develop?
Just a comment. Please, if you wish someone to answer from a team of experts, if you address your question personally, please tell the name.
Okay. Simon, please.
Actually, that's a question not about implementation.
No,
it's not topic of our panel discussion.
Yes, please hold your question within the topic.
Interesting question, and we can talk about it later.
Panel discussion. Our panel discussion about while successful implementation of TRIZ solutions fails.
Valeri,
not always, but sometimes.
Valeri, if I comment, because I'm working with a company, and right now this is somehow the situation that people scared, and in big company not using because it's problem with confidentiality. So they waiting for some regulation. So this is what I know.
Okay. Thank you very much. Same with Samsung. No. Okay. Next question, please. Jerzy?
Yeah, thank you. My question is about the danger of wrongly identifying the actual goals of customer. Do you have an experience with this? That you did a good job, but it was not that job? Thank you.
Do you ask someone personal or?
No, I think all these experts have experience on this.
Okay.
My answer will be very quick, because now for 10 years I'm within the company, and I am not involved in the process of identifying of project goals. It is done by my Korean managers. And while we are within the company, for 10 years, I haven't experienced such a problem. Probably that is for external consultant.
Thank you.
So I give you two examples. One is not mine. It's very well known. This is case of Juicero. So you can Google and read. This is brilliant how to fail with wrong identification. And I told you my case that I spent $5 million for a project that was wrong described. And after then for final presenting for customer, it was great job, but we don't need this at all. And after then, for this big fail, we had another problem, and we used TRIZ, how to create, sell this, what we create at all, for whom one. And we finally find the niche. It was failure and success from both hands, but the initial wrong dedicated final customer, it was a big problem.
Okay, if you have something to add, Simon or Robert.
No, actually, I have the same feeling that Oleg has. We also at Siemens get a list of requirements. Well, the list reads as if they have read all the catalogs of the competitors and just taken the numbers and did ×2 on the numbers, and that was then the requirements list that we got. So I hadn't experienced that problem personally.
I have a little bit different answer to you, Jerzy. In our TRIZ community, in our TRIZ consulting companies, the tool exists, does exist. It's main parameters of value identification. By definition, MPV is a feature of the product that is unsatisfied on the market and important for purchasing decision, which means that if the objective of the project is MPV, it cannot fail because nobody needs it, by definition. Unfortunately, sometimes client insists that, no, we would like to do this, not what you are saying, that is MPV. And in our practice for 30 plus years, we've faced several times when client insisted in addressing something non-MPV, and in 100% of such cases, the client, not us, the client failed. And in the situation when the MPV was selected right, it's much higher probability that the good solution will be implemented.
I would like to illustrate what Simon said. I was personally involved in one project in India. They asked me just to improve a special product. You know, Indian women use special oils to treat, well, hair.
What you don't have.
Yeah. I don't know why, I'm not a great expert here, but they use it. And they named the parameter that should be improved. I worked hard. I developed some idea and we implemented it, well, handmade prototype. And we delivered this picture, and physically we delivered these prototypes. Customer was excited, was very happy. But after that, her boss arrived and said, what? No, we don't need it. We are not going to use this solution. The project was cancelled and our client was fired. It's a question about why our solutions were not implemented. Because big boss said that we don't need it.
Thank you very much, Alex. And I would just comment, I remember a terrible case 20 years ago from my practice when we approached a client who asked us to develop a new device for theft prevention in garment stores. For 2 months, every charitable day was spent by our team. 2 months of charitable days. And when we brought the results of the project and proudly presented, the team of a customer was looking at us and said, what the hell is that? We didn't ask for it. Yeah? So the Jerzy asked a very correct question. In most cases, a failure of a solution, I guess, happens because of wrong communication between consultants and customers. All right, more questions, please. Okay, there is a question from Hemant Parikar. How much clarity do the client companies have about their problem, and how much effort is required to bring clarity?
Bring clarity. So I think it's about the product and the company itself. So if I was thinking about back Siemens time, so that was for the product management and for innovation management to clear things up before. So they had a lot of work to do there. I also moderated and facilitated workshops to help them to find and to identify the fields where they want to invent, the fields they want to go. So there's a lot of work that is going on there. So, and it also depends on the company which tools they use there. So for MUM, that pacifier company in Austria here, I also had the project there, and I found out that they also did a very good job in finding out the customer needs. They didn't use design thinking there, but they used also online blogs and find out what the people were complaining about their pacifiers for the kids. And they found out how the people were criticizing their products or what they found good about their products. So it's all on online forums of mothers, and then they invited the mothers to play with their new games. So they watched them and recorded them, and so they had different tools to do that. So it also depends on the company and the product. You cannot imagine to do this then with electromechanical products. With electromechanical products, it's more like, okay, what are the main parameters of value, and which do you want to improve, and then you will improve on those parameters.
Okay, thank you very much. Simon, please.
Actually, I would kind of a little bit change the question from Mr. Pardikar, because he's asking about clarity for the client, for the company. But in some cases, the problems with implementation is not about the company that state the problem, because there are some other stakeholders outside of the company. The first one, the consumers, it's obvious. But there are cases when the company didn't even think about the other stakeholders. Let me give you an immediate example. Maybe you know in TRIZ community this case was very well known. It's a mooring complex helping big ships to be moved through the narrow channels. And we developed, I believe it's one of the best solutions developed by TRIZ ever. And the great solution, great patent, everything was okay. It was even partially implemented in Russia, and then there was an attempt to implement this solution in New York City, New York Port Authority. You know what's happened? The Port Authority was fully supported this solution, and they started to discuss the budget. Then what's happened? They forgot that there is a union of mooring workers, and union voted not to implement it because it's a danger for their job, and it was killed. It was not implemented. Again, guys, we should think not only about the client, not only about the customer, the final user, but some other stakeholders. Only if you address all needs of the stakeholders, then the probability of implementation will be much higher.
Okay, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen,
Let's vote against application of artificial intelligence.
Okay, Georgi. Okay, next question from Georgi. Please don't forget that today after the TRIZ for education session, there will be an invited talk by Georgi at about 5 o'clock or something after the TRIZ for education session will over. Please don't go away. Yeah, okay, I promoted you. Please go ahead.
My question is, do you think if it makes sense to show unfinished work to the client just in order to identify potential problems with implementation as early as possible?
Yeah, if I looking back to this failure, if we are presenting for the customer what we preparing, what we offering, definitely it will be the method how to avoid this trouble. But what we also implement after this lesson learned, that from marketing request we just starting this design and development. We perform another stage. So what market wants, it was a document called market requirement specification. After then, for this response, we prepare this response from technical point of view. What is possible, what is feasible, what is needed to invent, and what is time for delivering with this and this solution to give the decision for the clients. And it really helps.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oleg?
Yeah, I would like to share two cases. As you know, as Valeri said, I worked with Gen 3 partners, not Gen 3 at the time, and my last client, before I moved to Samsung, was Owens, Illinois, the glass container manufacturing company. And we established very good relationships with the team of Owens, Illinois. We had weekly updates. So we showed results of what we have done during 1 week. That was extremely helpful. So all projects I had, 4 or 5 projects, were successful because of this communication. That was the rule, that every Thursday we show results and we obtain feedback. So definitely it helps a lot. With Samsung, now I'm inside the company, but still I'm a consultant. And we have a team where we have a Korean manager and 2 TRIZ consultants, or 1 TRIZ consultant. Sometimes I work just with 1 person who is a manager. And it is also the rule. We have weekly meetings with engineers, and that helps a lot.
Okay, thank you. Simon?
George, first of all, I recalled the saying that never show the unfinished job to 3 categories: idiots, bosses, and clients. Yeah.
This is why I asked.
Yeah, but to be serious, you cannot just ask a client to wait till the final solution, and even not a solution, but some working prototypes. That will be convincing. But if you divide it into the understandable steps, it will help. For instance, from the very beginning, you explain to the client that it will be stages. It's stage gate process. First, we will show you some conceptual directions and illustrative ideas. It's not a solution, but in order you to feel more comfortable, we will show you that, don't worry, we know how to address this problem. Next will be some ideas, but it's not solution yet. Next will be substantiated solutions. But again, it's not the end of the process. Next will be proof of principle prototype. If the client understands this process, it will help dramatically. And secondly, it's already mentioned during this panel discussion that if, Robert said, if the client team considers themselves as co-authors of this solution, it's much easier.
Yeah, then if you allow me just to clarify my question a little bit. So did you have any cases when you were using this approach of informing client as you go through the project, but at the same time at the end it turned out that the client doesn't want to implement your idea?
Yes, of course, because as we discussed before, there are other reasons why ideas are not implemented. As Simon and Alex said, there are different stakeholders. So we may discuss with engineers, and we are doing very good. We have weekly meetings, we are on the same page, but at the end of the project, top executives visit the final presentation. They say, "What is that? That's not what we ask you to do." So sometimes even the engineers from the client team, they do not understand the top-level requirements, and that is why even this communication process going on all the time, we may fail.
I see. So does it mean that you should have invited that stakeholder earlier?
Of course. Yes. The answer is yes.
All right. Any more questions? Please, Oleg.
Thank you.
You will be next.
My question would be to Robert, Jerzy, and Oleg, because I'm working with Simon. I know what's going on in TRIZ. Let me give you a small background. In our practice, let's say from 20 to 25% of solutions are implemented, which means that other 70 or 80% are not. We know that some solutions that we propose to the clients are much less promising and will be unlikely implemented. You know, we use QA screening, and we see that what we propose is not good for this specific company. It's too big for this solution. Let's say if you propose something breakthrough, which does not have market yet, but it's very promising in the future, unlikely a huge giant will be successful. And vice versa. If some startup will improve mature products, it will unlikely be successful, and so on.
Oleg,
so we know that.
Go to your question.
Yeah. Okay. We know that, but we still want to impress clients and deliver everything, because they like all the solutions, all of them. If we did not offer those less promising, the success rate would be doubled. So, this is what we do in TRIZ. What is done in Samsung, ABB, and in Robert's practice? Do you somehow take into account and look at the brilliant solutions, whether they could be implemented by this specific company or not?
I would say yes, because look, big companies like Samsung, Siemens, GE, they hire best engineers in the world, right? They have money to hire good engineers. And in order to demonstrate that good knowledge and engineering skills are not enough, we should show that TRIZ is something which adds plus to that. And that is why always in our TRIZ projects at Samsung, we show something which could not be developed having just, basic knowledge in this subject field. We show solutions from other areas with function-oriented search, we may find them. We show some fantastic solutions, and even my Korean colleagues call them crazy ideas, and we love crazy ideas. So the short answer, yes. Even we know that these solutions, these ideas will not be implemented, we include them to prove that TRIZ is something better than subject matter knowledge.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
This is still the question how to playing with some platform, because when we have big company, they try to make something that is universal. And the simple example is different market in Europe and US. In US, simply everything is bigger. And we met the situation that should be somehow platform, but when we presenting for our customer in the US some switchgear, some electrical devices, they said, yes, but it's too small. Yeah? We don't like it. Yeah? In the US, it should be bigger. So what we do, we build the enclosure bigger and put the component small inside. Yeah? So we make standardizing that way, but we consider this local requirement. But according to my experience, the perception is one of the biggest the killer that bosses don't like it. It was every time bigger in that way, and it should be somehow working around.
For me, it was like Siemens is a very conservative company, and so you had those crazy ideas just in the beginning of the process. So, and my impression is more than actually we get rid of 90% of the ideas, and then we try to substantiate those 10%, and then we find out which is the best solution there and which they want to implement. So it's more like this of a breakdown. So, but they got thrown out then just at the very beginning.
Thank you. Sorry, Oleg didn't ask me. He asked my colleagues, but I have not answers, but a couple of important comments about statistics that Oleg shared with you. 25% of solutions were implemented. First of all, it's a pretty high number. But comment number one, the topic of this discussion is implementation, but there is at least one other way of the commercialization of our solutions. Not implementing, but patenting, preventing the competitors to go in this direction. It's also business impact, but you cannot call it implementation. That's the first important comment. With this consideration, the positive percentage will be increased. And secondly, a very similar thing that in more than 50% of the cases, we simply don't know whether our solution was implemented or not, because client didn't share with us it. We are asking them whether you implement it. It's not your problem. We do it internally. That's why we don't know the real statistics. That's one of the problems. Maybe when you are working inside the company, you don't have this problem. But we, outside consultants, definitely have this problem.
With that, I know another story, and it was also with an Austrian company called Internorm. They do windows, and that engineer that hired me for doing a workshop within the company, he had the following problem. He always was considering one idea and was trying to implement the idea, and he had a boss that came to his place, and then the boss said, "Why don't you do it this way?" So the boss had another idea, okay? And he was then spending the next week trying to explain and find out if this idea is working, and trying to find the bottlenecks of this idea, and explaining his boss why he don't want to have those ideas. And he called me then 2 months after the workshop, and he said, "You know what? I do not have the problem anymore. Because now with the workshop, I have the bunch of ideas, number 1 till number 78, and every time my boss comes, he says, we thought about this idea. It is idea number 28, and we do not do it because of." And the boss went off again, and he can do his work.
Okay, thank you. Stefan, we will come to your question, but before I am looking to the chat window, from Wolfgang Selleberger, your statements hint towards look for secondary limits problems, eliminate or convince those people or things. No, definitely. From Hammond Partikar, can the bosses who can overrule be explained the value of our recommendation on its positive effect or bottom line? That's ultimately they are interested. Yeah, sure.
In my experience talking to big bosses when I was with Gentry and delivered final presentations to the client, so we invited big bosses for 10 minutes or 20 minutes. They do not have time, and well, then you do not have time to convince these big bosses. They hear it only for 10 minutes and they said, no, it's not going to fly. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Stefan, your question, please.
My experience sometimes as a consultant is that when we offer conservative innovation or radical innovation, the people say, okay, try both, but we are very much interested in radical innovation. At the end, when they see the conceptual solution for radical innovation, they are afraid because it is a big change. So there is maybe change management behind this to deploy, but it is also because of high investments. It changes a lot the environment. There is a lot of investment implied in this change, and then they go to more conservative innovation and they are happy. Do you share this experience? It's not always the case, but it comes relatively often.
Jerzy?
Yeah, so I told you the one story that is exactly what you say, and it happened in ABB, and we had a very, very motivated speech of our boss that we should create something that never a competitor has so far. And when we presented, he asked, okay, this looks risky, but could you show me some competitor that already implemented? Yeah, so this is like, you know, two contradiction in one. But the story is the follow, that in some market in Norway or Sweden, there is some very conservative approach about environment. So every solution should be pure, clear, green, and everything. And one of the best technology how to break the current is using gas SF6. But during this, you know, the performance is creating some harsh gas, and this is big stopper. You cannot go to this market. So ABB invented a patented solution as a single company on the world. The special gas have exactly the same performance, but they finally not came to this market. Why? Because this local market say, okay, this is a risk for us. If ABB fail, who will deliver this technology? So finally this patent was released as for free. And you know, this effort for making some unique, it's really a risky topic here.
Thank you. You want to add something?
I have a comment that there is one condition when the client at least open to new generation solutions. When it's in a shitty situation, losing business. If, let's say, some category of products are just client losing market for these products, they are ready to adopt and implement new generation solutions. The most famous case study in this community, this crest white strips teeth bleaching product that is multi-billion product category for Procter & Gamble today, and they were simply losing markets for their old product, and they were ready for something new. We have several types of case studies when clients are really open for adoption of a new generation technology.
Thank you very much. Can you please turn the chart upside? There was a missing question. Scroll it, please, up. Thank you. From PVN is Narayan, TRIZ Asia Chairman. Question 2. Does not invented here syndrome dominate the solutions generated by consultants and hence implementation, commercialization? Oh. Take a long time, actually. Yeah. Also, consultants wouldn't have any idea if the solution is implemented. How do we tackle this problem? I will split into two parts. Does not invented here syndrome really hinders or interferes with the work of consultants? What are you feeling? What do your experience show?
We already discussed it.
Yeah.
We
already discussed it. Yes.
It depends on how you work as a consultant. If you try to do the solution yourself and offer the solution to your client, then you have the not invented here problem. If you just facilitate, then you won't have the problem. So I think that is the better way to go.
Yeah, and I just underlined that if we working as a consultant and we came with our ideas, we can find 100 ideas how to not implement. So that's the problem, yeah? To overcome this person.
Okay. And the last question for this panel discussion, because we are approaching the end of it. Scroll down, please. Yes. Again, from PVN, Narayan. We, as innovation consultants, are working on unknown. How do you manage to convince the client to sign the contract as he has the 100% financial risk on him when he starts discussing during the sign-off, while the risk keeps reducing as we proceed with the project? But initially, 100% is on him. Simon.
Yeah.
I think it's...
Okay. Actually, it's a very tough question because now we are talking not about implementation. It's out of this panel, but that's one of the biggest problems for TRIZ consultants. We are selling something that we cannot show. When you are buying a new car, you can say, oh, that's the car. We are buying a new computer. I know what I'm buying. You are buying results of TRIZ project. What is it? TRIZ, Kuku, Mumu, Tutu. What I'm buying. And for big professional TRIZ companies, the prices are not small. They are pretty high. And the client is asking, I'm paying $150,000 for what? That's a real problem, and frankly speaking, there is no kind of effective solutions yet for these problems. In each particular time, we are trying to convince clients with different explanations, but what definitely doesn't work, many clients have an idea, risk, share, rewards. We will pay you some small amount of money in advance, but when the solution will be implemented, then we will pay you 3 times more. Unfortunately, it doesn't work for us. We cannot survive with this share risk, share reward model.
Maybe I add something, and this is my method how to convince people that they really don't get it, what is the TRIZ. But they usually starting that our industry is different. And my response is, okay, so what is meaning? There is a lab physics or doesn't work in your company? And after then we start, about the detail.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we approach the end of our panel discussion. Thank you all very much for your participation, and please, now it's time of lunch, and in 1 hour we are expecting you back in this room. Thank you very much.